I'm Liz from Night Owl Crafts Australia. With just a few weeks to go until Christmas, things get very busy in the kitchen. Today we're going to be making almond bread. For this almond bread recipe, it is very simple. You will need 3 standard eggs, 125 grams or 4 ounces of plain or all-purpose flour, 125 grams of pure icing sugar, and 125 grams of raw almonds. So that's 3 eggs and 3 other ingredients, all of 125 grams or 4 ounces. The first step is to separate your eggs. If you're not used to separating eggs or not very confident, it's always a good idea to separate one at a time and then transfer the egg white one at a time into the beater. That way, if you contaminate one lot of egg whites with the yolk of the egg, you can discard it. You don't want any egg yolks in the egg white mixture or it won't whip up correctly. So just separating out the egg yolk, being careful not to puncture the yolk, otherwise it will contaminate the egg white. If you get any little bits of egg shell in the mixture, just fish them out. And save your egg yolks because you can always use them to make lemon butter, which is also a nice gift to give at Christmas. Now, transferring the egg whites into the mix master, you'll want to mix the eggs until they are a fairly firm peak. And while we're mixing, it'll be quite noisy. These are the egg whites that have been whipped up. They are certainly at a firm stage. You wouldn't want to go any further than that, else they would become fairly dried out. For this quantity of almond mixture, it will fit a tin approximately this size, which is 8 centimetres by 25 centimetres, or in imperial that's about 3 inches by 10 inches. If I make double the quantity, I can fill a tin this size, which is in metric 8 centimetres by 29 centimetres, and a lot deeper, being 7 centimetres deep. The smaller tin is only 4 centimetres deep. It is a lot easier to cut the almond bread if you're using a smaller tin, and it makes neater almond bread. You will need to line the tin with aluminium foil, keeping the shiny surface towards the almond bread. It's helpful when you're lining with aluminium foil not to have long fingernails. You want to avoid creating holes in the aluminium foil. Make sure that it's tucked right into the corners and just smooth out the surface on the inside. We don't oil or grease the aluminium foil at all. Now that's ready to have the mixture put into it. Once the egg whites have beaten up, we will add the icing sugar gradually to the mixture, giving it time to dissolve by just mixing it through, and run it on slow. Otherwise, if you add the icing sugar more quickly or all in one amount with it on high, you're likely to create a snowstorm in your kitchen. You should now have a fairly glossy meringue type mixture, and to this we will add the plain all-purpose flour and the unblanched almonds. We'll now add the flour just in one lot and the almonds. And this you will need to stir in thoroughly but gently, trying not to lose the volume of the meringue mixture. You want to mix it just until you don't have any pockets of loose flour left, using a stirring and folding over style to try and maintain as much airiness in the mixture. Right, the mixture is now ready to put into the bar tin. Trying not to get any overlapping the edges. And scraping out as much of the mixture as you can from the bowl so as not to waste any. And I'll need a scraper to just get the last little bits. And to scrape out the bowl. The scraper is also then useful just to pat it down, smoothing out the top, making sure all the corners are filled in. Putting it in the oven at 180 degrees Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit. We'll set it for 40 minutes. It's a good idea with a fan forced oven to check it at 30 or 35 minutes just to check that it's not getting too brown. Oh, overshot. The loaf will puff up somewhat and turn a nice golden brown on top when it's done. At this point we will leave it to cool in the tin and then wrap it very firmly in foil. Once it comes out of the oven, you will need to let it cool in the tin and then wrap it firmly in more aluminium foil and put it into a plastic bag and store it in the fridge for 3 to 5 days just to settle before you go on to the next stage. The next stage is finely slicing the loaf and then putting the slices back in the oven at about 160 degrees Celsius just to dry out. You don't want the slices to brown, you just want them to dry and become crisp. For slicing the loaf, I've tried many different knives, and the one that I've found to be the most effective is a very finely serrated knife. I have tried electric knives and stay sharp knives, but the finely serrated ones are the best. So we just slice the loaf as finely as possible. Don't worry about bits of crumbliness at the top. The finer they're sliced or the thinner they're sliced, the quicker they will crisp in the oven. So we will just be putting them onto a baking tray. leaving a bit of space between each one so that they don't stick together. And once we've filled the tray, it will go into the oven. Now, if you're using a fan-forced oven, you'll want to check it after about 10 minutes to see if they're crisping up. A normal oven can take as long as 20 minutes, but as I said, you want to avoid them browning. They will still taste nice even if they have browned, but they just don't look quite as attractive. Once they've crisped up in the oven, allow them to cool and then place them in an airtight container. And they will then stay crisp and last for quite a few weeks. Now, if some of your slices are slightly thicker than others, put the thicker slices towards the outside of the tray and leave the thinner ones in the middle where they get a bit more protection. Right, putting in the tray to crisp up. I'll put it on the top shelf and I'll set the timer for 10 minutes. So after 10 minutes, check the tray. If any of them are beginning to brown up, then it's certainly time to take them out of the oven. It's better if you can get to them before they actually start to colour. Once they've crisped up in the oven, just allow them to cool on the tray and then put them into an airtight container. These are some examples of ones that are a good colour. This one has a little bit too much colour on it. If you're giving them as gifts, you want to aim for this sort of colouring. The slightly more well done ones you can keep for your own consumption. They taste just as nice. The appearance is just a little bit lacking. These make lovely gifts and they're very Moorish to eat. They're a family favourite at Christmas time, and I was originally given the recipe by Olive McIntosh, an elderly friend of mine. One of the perks about being the baker is settling down to enjoy your products and a good cup of coffee at the end. This has been Liz from Night Owl Crafts Australia. I hope you found this video useful. Please click the like button and subscribe.